At this point, we're forecasting it. It's a little hard to see here, but here's the Florida Peninsula and the Florida Keys. What we're talking about is the center of the hurricane going to be making landfall perhaps in the early hours on Sunday, but it'll be preceded by tropical storm force winds beginning Saturday night on the peninsula, and then, or by mid-afternoon on the peninsula, then hurricane force winds sometime after dark. Again, if the center should shift farther to the west, that's good news for the southeastern part of the state, but bad news for the southwestern part of the state. We'll be right at the edge of hurricane force winds if the center continues to move up the southwestern part of the state.
And just in terms of the speed with which this storm is moving, for people in, say, the Miami area or the coastal areas of Florida, how long are they going to be in, in heavy winds for?
In the area that gets the center of the hurricane crossing over, so you have the largest extent of tropical storm and hurricane force winds, the longest time. We're talking about potentially 24 to even 36 hours of tropical storm force winds and hurricane force winds that could be as long as 10 hours. So that's going to occur right where the center makes landfall.
Wow, Ed Rappaport, good information. I appreciate it. While hundreds of thousands of people are heeding evacuation orders, others are choosing not to or simply can't. We'll talk to a man who's stuck in Key West about how he'll try to survive the storm next.
And Gus, and we know about that from previous storms dealing in the Bay Area. If you're new to Florida, this is all probably new information to you, but the old saying, run from water, hide from wind, is pretty good advice. 155-mile-per-hour winds is Irma, a very strong Category 4 hurricane, interacting with land, a good portion of it. Surprising, the Hurricane Center does keep it very consistent at that same strength around the northern coast of Cuba, and then taking that northwesterly turn. You can see that forecast track takes it over the central part of the Florida Keys, keeping in mind the stronger side would be on the eastern or to the right of that number 5, the advancing part of the storm with 160-mile-per-hour winds, but you could see almost a northern surge coming around into Key West and with some strong wind gusts there as well. Sunday at 2 p.m. around Naples, that's the forecast track, and then moving over our area throughout the day on Sunday into Sunday night into the early part of Monday. And Monday early, that's what I'm talking about, that wind shift around the southern side. That would bring some higher seas to the west coast. Again, there's a look at the satellite imagery, a very well-formed storm. There's that land interaction. Virtually half the storm, almost, is interacting with land. That southern side weighs some of the energy, but it's still very resilient in maintaining its strength. This is why they've shifted the forecast track to the west, because the spaghetti models, which are pretty close in line, have shifted west, including some of the major models. So that's why you see that official track from the Hurricane Center doing that. Storm surge potential fairly high for Manatee, Sarasota at 1 to 6 feet. Watch your high tides. Watch your high tides. Just a good reminder for those that live along the water or have interest along the water. 3 to 6 feet for parts of the bay, widespread, 1 to 3 feet, and then northern areas 3 to 8 feet Sunday afternoon into Monday morning. Of course, water effects always a huge deal here in the Bay Area. And as that track shifts farther west, we start to work in some of those saltwater effects. And of course, that's what we have to be concerned with, as well as the wind gusts. And the wind gusts, primarily, I'm talking to you folks in Polk County, in Highlands County, Hardee, DeSoto, and everywhere else, but especially those areas for the strongest winds, guys.
What is starting to reminisce.
All eyes on Hurricane Irma. Still have that 2 p.m. advisory is the most recent. Current movement is to the west at 14 miles per hour, so maximum winds at 155 miles per hour. And you can see the eye of the storm is moving north of Cuba. Again, the strongest winds on the northeastern side of this storm. And as we show you the track, you can see continuing on that northwestward path, staying likely just north of Cuba as a Category 4 hurricane. And then we're still waiting on that turn to the north. That would be on Saturday, and depending on how soon or how late it turns north would depend on the track and the effects, again, here in Florida, like you've heard us talk about over and over again. The trend, unfortunately, the last 2 days has been a little bit farther to the west, so it looks more like it's going to be moving down through the center of the state or even a little bit closer towards us as opposed to the east coast. So that means higher winds here and then also some more rain as well. The good news is, though, it moves out quickly. So by Monday at 8 a.m., you can see this storm is now a Category 1 and moving out away from us. So it's mainly going to be a Sunday night event. That's generally going to be the worst of it. That's where we're going to be seeing the highest winds and also the most rain. Really starting up Sunday afternoon and then pushing out as we head into Monday. As far as winds go, expect sustained winds across much of our area at 65 to 75 miles per hour. Again, hurricane strength winds are at 74. We'll likely see gusts above that, especially if the track is moving right along your area, closer to the center where the strongest of the gusts are. Rainfall amounts 6 to 12 inches. At this point, it still looks like our inland counties will see the highest of the rainfall there, and then higher than normal tides possible with some coastal flooding during high tide.
With us, Louis Cellini, the director of the National Weather Service. Patrick Ottman is in Cuba for us right now, where this storm is really developing. Patrick, be careful over there, but tell us what you can.
You know, just as the last time we talked, Will, the first major squall has come in, rain blowing sideways. We can no longer see the islands off the coast. It is really exploding here. I think it's just the beginning of this very powerful storm.
To get out while they can. If they stay, there will not be anyone to rescue them. Nonetheless, a few are sticking around for a variety of reasons. Vanessa Gray is riding out the storm in West Palm Beach after helping her patients at a drug rehab center evacuate. She joins me now. Vanessa, nice of you to stay behind to help your clients. I know your first priority was getting them relocated to a shelter. Did you just choose not to evacuate? And what is your plan now for the storm?
Well, I guess you could say I chose not to evacuate, but it didn't really feel like a choice. I didn't want the clients to be alone without support. A lot of them are struggling with addiction, obviously, and so to leave them would have been catastrophic for them. So I decided to stay and support them right up until evacuation.
That's, I mean, incredibly brave and incredibly compassionate of you. What is your plan? I know you're in a condo. Are you going to stay there? What's the plan?
I am going to stay in my condo. I was just telling my building manager today he should work for FEMA because they're doing such an amazing job at keeping us informed and securing the building. I don't think we've ever seen a storm like this before, so you really don't know what's going to happen. But I do feel as safe as I can be. And I also have a pet, and this building is very pet friendly. So I also get to stay with my animals. So that was part of the reason I didn't move today or yesterday either.
And I think your dog is next to you on the sofa. How high off the ground are you in that condo? Yeah, well, that's good. It's probably a blessing. How high are you off the ground in that condo? And do you have supplies? Do you have batteries? I assume you don't have a generator.
Yes, I'm a therapist, but I'm also a social worker. So I think by nature, I was very prepared. So I'm as prepared as I can be. I have lanterns, a radio, water, food and water for her. I have a bag that's ready to go, like a bug out bag in case I'm told to leave the area with all important documents, clothing, medication for my dog, documentation for my dog. So I have a huge checklist that I've gone through. So I feel prepared, extremely nervous, but prepared.
Yeah, well, it's understandable. Are there other people around in that complex? Or are you in touch with other people who are going to be kind of checking in on you and you checking in on others?
Yes, I have to say, you know, what you saw with Harvey is definitely happening here in Florida for a variety of reasons. One of my neighbors, their son has cerebral palsy. You know, for a variety of reasons, people have chosen to stay behind. And we've really come together. Same thing at work. I mean, I work with such an amazing group of dedicated people. Same thing, like we all came together like a family. We're all checking with each other here at the condo. The building management has been excellent. So I feel not alone, and I'm definitely not physically alone.
Well, Vanessa, your compassion to care for your clients, even in the face of this monster storm, is incredibly admirable. I wish you the best. We'll continue to check in with you just throughout the next couple of days. Aaron Huntsman is on potentially even more dangerous ground. He's in Key West, sheltering at a friend's house with his husband, their dogs. Joins us now on the phone. Aaron, so this storm now we understand is going to hit the Keys as a Cat 5. There is a mandatory evacuation. You decided to stay. What was the thinking on staying, and how concerned are you?
Well, we had reservations in St. Petersburg at a hotel, and yesterday Governor Rick Scott announced that there was a mandatory evacuation for the area where we were going. So the hotel canceled our reservation. So we kind of were stuck here, but our attorney, Bernadette Restivo, that helped us to overturn All of our furniture is over the 7-foot mark for a surge, and we are now safe on Solaris Hill, right by the cemetery. And we're scared.
How close to the ocean are you? How close to the water are you?
We're right in the center of the island. It's never flooded at this point. Even the hurricanes for over hundreds of years they've been keeping track. I mean, it's been close, but our other place is at 3-foot elevation, and we are at 18 feet here.
And understandable that you're scared. I think a lot of people are right now. Do you have a small boat or anything? If at some point it is flooded and you need to get out?
Well, I don't think the water is going to be around much. I think the main thing is that you have to hide from the wind and run from the surge, or vice versa. So we do have mattresses here in the house in case it gets bad, like Andrew. If any walls come down, or so we're protected. We could have been stuck up on the freeway, could have had an issue, but on solid ground, coral, old Key West rock. This is what Key West is about, and any other people that are having that are scared, we're opening our place. Bernadette Restivo has said, "Please come here. We'll shelter you during the."
And I understand your husband, who works at the hospital there, is actually on standby to help reopen the hospital after the storm hits. Is that right?
Yes, he's a medical supply, and he's part of the team that is going to help reopen if there's any surge damage. So, we can't open up to the rest of the public, get the locals back here until the hospital's going, the bridges are checked, and roads are clear. So
yeah, well, Aaron, we wish you and your husband and your pet the best. We'll continue to check in with you. Stay safe, be careful. Coming up, a storm the size of Irma can absolutely shred boats, no matter how big they are. So Florida boaters are trying to save their boats from being destroyed. While details on those preparations
is in Cuba for us right now, where this storm is really developing. Patrick, be careful over there, but tell us what you can.
Justin, the last time we talked, the first major squall has come in. Rain blowing sideways. We can no longer see the islands off the coast.
No, it just came in. Max winds of 155 miles per hour, still moving off to the west at about 12 miles per hour. So it has not made any sort of northerly component yet to the track. You can see the eye right now nearing the northern coast of Cuba. The minimum pressure, 924 millibars. And as we zoom in, you can still see a very well-defined eye. Now, the National Hurricane Center in the last advisory said they weren't expecting a whole lot of weakening with the system as it interacted with Cuba. We'll have to wait and see over the course of the next several hours if we do see any of that, as it does continue to move west. As we head into Saturday, notice more of a northwesterly turn and still a strong category 4. It's expected to be as we do head into Saturday and Sunday there. And we'll try to see if our computer system wants to work with us. It's thinking right now. But what we can tell you is the track is very similar to what it has been. They don't actually update the track until 11 p.m. So we're still expecting this to be a major category 4 or 5 storm as it moves over the Keys. Now, as we head into early Sunday morning, then it will expect it to make landfall closer towards the Naples area as well, and then move up the center of the state. And we'll continue, of course, to see big impacts here in the Tampa Bay area, especially with that more west track. We'll have a closer look at Irma coming up in a few minutes.
And meteorologist Julie Phillips.
Now we have that 8 p.m. update for you on Hurricane Irma. The full update this time. Our computer system is caught up, and the maximum winds at 155 miles per hour right now, moving to the west at 12 miles per hour. You can see that eye. It's actually nearing the northern coast of Cuba as we speak. So they're really seeing a lot of the effects of the storm right now. The heavy rain bands, the stronger winds from the system. Of course, hurricane warnings posted up along the northern coast of Cuba and through the Keys as well, because we are expecting this storm to potentially reach category 5 strength as it moves into the Keys late Saturday night into early Sunday morning, and then move up towards the Naples area, probably as a Category 4 storm, and then continue to trek north. The eye would be somewhere around Polk County, Highlands County, it looks like at this point, but that all depends on the turn toward the north. So you do still have to look at the whole cone, although you do know it's narrowing at this point as we get closer to the actual event. Note by Monday at 2 p.m., the storm is moving out of Florida already, and it's weakened to a tropical storm. So probably when it's around the Tampa Bay area, we're talking about a Category 2 or maybe even still a Category 3, but hold on to some of those winds at this point. Hurricane warnings have been posted for the southern half of our viewing area, where you'll see the effects first. Still a hurricane watch, though, for places like Pinellas, Hillsborough, Polk, all the way up through Citrus County. As far as storm surge is concerned, storm surge warning in effect for the Sarasota coastline, storm surge watch in effect for parts of Pinellas, Hillsborough, and Manatee County. So here's a look at the spaghetti models. You can see most of them are generally in agreement right now on moving near the Naples area as we head into Sunday morning, and then continuing up kind of the center of the state, maybe even a little bit farther west. Unfortunately, the trend the last couple of days has been slowly off to the west. So we're really not expecting it to move back east, although you do know these tracks change very quickly, and that's why you have to stay with us for the...
Go right to our Chief Meteorologist, Steve Jervey, in the Forecast Center. He has the latest on where Hurricane Irma is expected to go, and specifically what impact it might have on us. Steve.
Absolutely, Keith. Yes, it has shifted to the west, and we've been talking about that can change, it will change. I say it every time we look at the track.
That's maybe a few family keepsakes. There's a lot they cannot take. Homes can be weatherproofed as much as possible, but boats, of course, are a different story. Randy Kay went to a marina today to see what's being done. She joins me now. I mean, how concerned are these boat owners?
The boat owners are pretty concerned, Anderson, because a lot of them have been through this before. They've lived through other hurricanes. They know what can happen to boats. They remember the scene from Wilma and Andrew when these boats were sort of tossed around and piled on top of each other and the marinas were destroyed. So we went to this marina in Miami today, and we saw firsthand what they're all doing to try and prevent it from happening again.
You know what time it is?
Harry and June Pasquier are doing all they can to keep their sailboat safe. They know the drill. They lost their last boat 12 years ago in Hurricane Wilma. It was docked at a different marina. So they're hoping this time around, their 52-foot sailboat they call Gypsy will weather the storm.
What are you guys doing to get ready?
Everything possible. A lot of lashing, taking down the canvas, putting out 12, 14 dock lines. It's a scary, scary situation.
Scary for everyone here at Maya Marina on the edge of downtown Miami.
What are you guys trying to do here?
Save the boats.
Chris Savitz and his team are working to tie down this tour boat.
What does it take to hold down a boat like this, do you think?
Honestly, the storm's so big, and we had Andrew a long time ago, but it depends on where the eye goes.
Cornelius Westerman lives on his boat, so if it gets destroyed, he's homeless.
I try not to get nervous. Being stressed out or whatever's not going to help you. You got to do the best. That's what I'm trying to do. Portia's famous because
he and his wife and their dog will be riding out the storm at a friend's house.
Oh, she's adorable. Do you think she knows the storm is coming?
Who knows? She knows there's something up. Yeah, she's a little tense. She knows something is up. Something is not out of the normal.
But not everyone is leaving their boat behind. There are about 4 crew members who told us they are staying on this 115-foot yacht. They've already dropped an anchor in the water. They've put some tape here on the windows. They're going to stay and hopefully save this yacht.
That hardly gives this boat owner peace of mind. Her boat is tied up right across from that yacht, and she's worried a yacht that size could just be part of a chain reaction that crushes her boat.
What's your greatest concern?
The greatest concern, we just lose the whole thing. I'll never see it again.
Where did those boat owners say they're going to ride out the storm if not on the boat?
Well, one guy we spoke to said that he's going to stay in a warehouse near the marina and try and basically use it as a bunker. He hopes that will keep him safe. The guy who lives on the boat, it's really his house. He's going to stay at a friend's house. Another couple, they live in Coconut Grove, which isn't in the evacuation zone, so they said they can stay there. But I did ask one couple, why wouldn't you just take your boat? You had all the warnings, get out of town, pack up the kids, the family dog, whatever it is, and leave. And they said, you know what? Our kids are in school. We have hurricane shutters. We have water. We have a generator. They think they could ride it out, and they hope that they're okay, and they hope their boat's okay, too.
All right, we'll check in with them, Randy. Thanks. Up next, I'm going to speak with the FEMA administrator about how the federal government is setting up for a huge cleanup effort. Obviously, they've learned a lot in the wake of Hurricane Katrina, where we saw the problems with FEMA. So we'll talk about what efforts FEMA is now making when the storm hits and after the storm.
Storm of the Bay Area just means different things for us. We said we could prepare for different things, including some pretty strong wind gusts as well as some coastal effects, especially later Sunday into Monday. So let's take a look at the watch that you mentioned. That means within 48 hours you could see hurricane force wind gusts, which would be 74 miles per hour in the highlighted area there, and then a hurricane warning in place. Basically, that means 36 hours for some of the southern counties, so that's the difference there. But it just means prepare for high wind gusts. And we know about that from previous storms dealing in the Bay Area. If you're new to Florida, this is all probably new information to you, but the old saying, run from water, hide from wind, is pretty good advice. 155 mile per hour winds is Irma, a very strong Category 4 hurricane, interacting with land a good portion of it. Surprising, the Hurricane Center does keep it very consistent at that same strength around the northern coast of Cuba, and then taking that northwesterly turn. You can see that forecast track takes it over the central part of the Florida Keys, keeping in mind the stronger side would be on the eastern or to the right of that number 5, the advancing part of the storm with 160 mile per hour winds, but you could see almost a northern surge coming around into Key West and with some strong wind gusts there as well. Sunday at 2 p.m. around Naples, that's the forecast track, and then moving over our area throughout the day on Sunday into Sunday night into the early part of Monday. And Monday early, that's what I'm talking about, that wind shift around the southern side that would bring some higher seas to the west coast. Again, there's a look at the satellite imagery, a very well-formed storm. There's that land interaction. Virtually half the storm almost is interacting with land. That tends to take away some of the energy, but it's still very resilient in maintaining its strength. This is why they've shifted the forecast track to the west, because the spaghetti models, which are pretty close in line, have shifted west, including some of the major models. So that's why you see that official track of the Hurricane Center doing that. Storm surge potential fairly high for Manatee, Sarasota at 1 to 6 feet. Watch your high tides. Watch your high tides. Just a good reminder for those that live along the water or have interest along the water. 3 to 6 feet for parts of the bay, widespread 1 to 3 feet, and then northern areas 3 to 8 feet Sunday afternoon into Monday morning. Of course, water effects always a huge deal here in the Bay Area. And as that track shifts farther west, we start to work in some of those saltwater effects. And of course, that's what we have to be concerned with, as well as the wind gusts. And the wind gusts, primarily, I'm talking to you folks in Polk County, in Highlands County, Hardee, DeSoto, and everywhere else, but especially those areas for the strongest winds, guys.
What it's starting to reminisce.
Irma, as this storm continues to shift west, let's begin with our First at 4 coverage with Storm Team meteorologist Julie Phillips.
Thank you, Josh. And unfortunately, that has been the trend over the last 2 days, has been that westward shift in the tracks. We're closely monitoring that for you. As of the last advisory at 2 p.m., we do have maximum winds at 155 miles per hour. So it has strengthened a bit, but it's still a Category 4 storm. Moving to the west at 14 miles per hour. You can still see a pretty well-defined eye that's right now staying north of Cuba. If this were to move closer or over Cuba, we could actually, again, see some weakening. But at this point, that eye is staying off to the north, and it's continuing on that northwestward track. You can see Saturday at 8 p.m., that's when we may start to see the turn to the north. And in general, the trend has been a little bit farther to the west. You can see a potential landfall in south or maybe even southwest Florida as we head into early Sunday morning as a Category 4 storm. And then it looks pretty much like, more likely looking like it's going to move up through the center of the state or even a little bit farther west, and then slowly weakening as it does move north. But at least it's moving quickly. Monday at 8 a.m., it's moving north of our viewing area, and it's about a Category 1 storm, and then we'll continue off to the north and west there. Spaghetti model-wise, you can see a few outliers, but a large portion of these bringing the storm into southwest Florida and moving it up towards the center or west center of the state before it moves out into the southeast, where we really don't care as much about it anymore. As far as
even
watches
before
go,
Irma makes landfall here in
watches
Florida, the
posted
federal
for
government
much
is
of the
planning
Tampa
for
Bay
what is
area,
sure to be a
including
massive cleanup and recovery and rebuilding effort. And before air, I spoke a couple hours ago, I spoke with FEMA Administrator Brock Long on what exactly they're doing to prepare. Mr. Long, just in terms of the storm, where it is now, what are you looking for? What are you looking at most closely? Because any slight deviation in this makes a big impact and a big difference for where you all need to respond.
Sure. So the forecast models are in great agreement. Florida's going to get hit.
And what I typically look for are all types of aspects with the forecast, but particularly what stands out is that the forward speed of this storm is starting to slow down, which indicates it's about to make its turn to the north. So it's going to have some big ramifications for obviously the Florida Keys, and then just any slight fluctuation 20 or 30 miles to the east or west of that track could have big implications for either Miami or the west coast of Florida.
There's such a large part of Florida, I mean, all along the coast potentially, that could be affected by this. In terms of pre-positioning the supplies that FEMA obviously wants to pre-position, how do you go about doing that, and have you been able to do that?
So that's a great question. So the first impacts are obviously going to be storm surge, which is the primary reason why we ask people to evacuate. So the first hit is obviously storm surge along the coast. But based on this forecast track, we have to be prepared to provide commodities for inland impacts as well for all of the counties within Florida and also as it travels into Georgia. So we push basically 3 days worth of commodities into Florida, and then we're holding several days worth of commodities in other states from basically Montgomery all the way up to North Carolina, in anticipation of inland impacts as well.
When you talk about commodities, can you say what kind of stuff you're pre-positioning? And because it's not just goods, it's also personnel. I mean, you have search and rescue teams, obviously, that you want to have in the right area at the right time.
Sure, that's right. So we have anything from staff, including search and rescue, to incident management teams already on site helping, our state and local partners with decision making and setting up response goals. But then when it comes to the life-sustaining commodities, it could be anything from meals to water to hygiene kits to supplies for babies, and in some cases including pets as well.
In a place like Miami Beach or just Miami itself, I mean, if it gets a direct hit, as many fear right now, how long could it be before power is restored in some areas, before gas stations are able to open again, before supermarkets are able to open?
So I think citizens of South Florida need to set their expectations that the power could be off for multiple days, if not weeks in some areas. The first thing that's got to happen is that you have to get the debris out of the way. You have to make sure that the roadway infrastructure is sound enough to be able to support power crews coming in from private companies to be able to restore the lines. And that takes time. And I know it's frustrating, but routine is about to be stalled for many days, if not weeks, in South Florida.
And in terms of manpower, how stretched are you? I mean, you obviously have Harvey that you've already been responding to. I'm sure you're taking some assets from there in order to work here, and obviously Jose coming as well.
Well, obviously, handling 2 major hurricane events, it does put a stress on staff and resources, but we're fully positioned. I mean, communication, not only with President Trump and Governor Scott and our state and local partners, has been strong, and the bottom line is that I feel that we are in a good spot to help Governor Scott achieve his response and recovery goals. We have nearly 8,000 federal employees already pre-positioned to go for this storm, in addition to the commodities we just spoke about.
Mr. Long, I wish you the best.
Thank you, Anderson.
Well, our coverage, of course, is going to continue all through the night, all through the weekend. We'll be covering this from a lot of different locations right now. Our coverage continues with Don Lemon and CNN Tonight.
Hey, Anderson, stand by because I have a couple of questions for you. By the way, thank you so much for staying with us. But you're in Miami now, and I saw some of the wind coming through. You're getting, I think, the very outer parts of those bands. The wind's just starting, but conditions are going to get so much worse, as you said, as we get closer and closer to Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, this right now we're in Miami Beach, very close to the ocean. 24 hours from now, in all likelihood, we will not be able to be in this location. We're going to have to be probably more in Miami downtown in a slightly elevated position. You try to plan out where the water may come, where the flooding may come, and obviously want to be able to broadcast all during the storm. So we're looking at kind of in elevated positions that we can kind of get to tomorrow and broadcast from as long as we're able to stay on the air.
As you're out and about, Miami is a big city and folks are out and about all the time. People vacation there. What is it like? What are they saying?
It's been incredibly quiet today. I actually, when I got in this morning, I went to the Publix supermarket right by our hotel downtown that amazingly was open, and they had planned to stay open until 9 p.m. tonight. I expected the shelves to be empty. There was tons of food there, water, Gatorade, all sorts of supplies. I actually filled up a shopping cart. There were hundreds of people there. It was very orderly. There was a heavy security presence as well. The people were very calm. You know, I think a lot of people have heeded the evacuation orders, and that's certainly the best news of all. But those who are staying seem to be heeding. You know, they understand the seriousness. Sometimes in hurricanes, as you know, the night before, you see people kind of staggering around. They've had a couple. We've seen a little bit of that here in Miami Beach, but not much at all. People seem to be taking this very seriously.
Yeah, as well they should. I mean, this is a monster storm, and they should all take heed and leave. Anderson, please be safe. We'll see you on the air soon. Anderson Cooper reporting for us live in Miami. We'll get back to him if need be. We want to get to CNN's Miguel Marquez live for us right now in Fort Lauderdale. Miguel, thank you for joining us so much. It's Friday night. People typically are out and about. Set the scene for us. What are you seeing?
You are exactly right, Don. People should be out and about, and it looks like ghost town. It is shutters on a lot of these shops and stores. The roads are mostly empty. There are some people out, but look, there are millions of people across this state on the move, getting out or in shelters tonight. We saw some people in far west Palm Beach County today, just south of Lake Okeechobee. These are people who are the most vulnerable, not only from the storm that might hit almost directly there, but the rains that will fall in the lake there and north of it, the watershed. It could stress the levees that are around that lake. There's about 143 miles of levees around that lake, and it could burst those. That is a concern. Almost the entire area south of that lake, immediately south of that lake, is at risk. But clearly, people are heeding the order because, as Anderson was saying, we drove down from that area into this area. Gas stations are open. There's no lines. The restaurants and the stores that are open, there's almost nobody in them. Clearly, people have gotten out of town, or they are hunkering down in their homes or hotels that they know are built to withstand storms. Don?
All right, Miguel, stand by. Anderson's in Miami. Miguel is in Fort Lauderdale. Also in Fort Lauderdale, CNN's Alexander Marquardt joining us now live. You're in a mandatory evacuation order zone. Are people heeding that warning, that order, Alexander?
Well, it looks like they are tonight. It's actually quite quiet around here. There are far fewer people who we saw during the course of the day. There are a couple of guys back there, but I do have to say, Don, there were a surprising number of people who were out and about today, out here on the beach at a nearby bar, which was just jam-packed all day with people getting a few more drinks in before they went home. Now, that evacuation order, we should note, is for a very thin strip along the coastline here in Fort Lauderdale. It extends eastwards from the federal highway. So the people who we spoke with say they are not in that mandatory evacuation zone. They feel comfortable staying at home. Maybe they live on higher ground. They believe that the homes that they live in can withstand these winds. They say that they have hurricane shutters. They boarded up their homes and have the supplies. That question will really be answered tomorrow, whether this in fact becomes a ghost town. There still is activity around here. On top of the mandatory evacuation order, there's also a curfew to go into effect tomorrow. Tom?
All right, Alexander Marquardt in Fort Lauderdale. Appreciate it. Stay safe out there, all of our correspondents. I want to get now to CNN's Allison Chinchard. She is in the CNN Weather Center with the very latest on this. This hurricane is going to intensify. What's the latest path for Irma?
Well, the latest path actually takes it pretty much, we're thinking, right over Cuba. In fact, the next advisory to come out in just less than an hour from now, they may actually call the landfall over Cuba. This takes it a little bit further west than some of the original models were trending, so this may have impacts on where the track of the storm goes from here. But right now, again, it's just to the north of Cuba. It's expected to continue to the west and then make its sharp turn towards the north. Right now, winds about 155 miles per hour, but that is only 2 miles per hour below Category 5 strength, and we expect it to get up to that level in the coming hours. Here's a look at that track. Again, we expect it to be a Category 5 storm as it crosses over the Florida Keys. Then, when it gets to the main peninsula of Florida, likely to be around a Category 4 as it crosses over the southern region. We still have hurricane watches and hurricane warnings for much of this region here. Again, basically Sarasota to Fort Pierce and down is where we have the warnings, but those are likely to expand north as we get closer to that landfall time, which at this point is expected to be very early Sunday morning. Storm surge is still expected to be one of the big factors with this storm. From West Palm Beach stretching all the way down towards Key West, storm surge is expected to be about 5 to 10 feet. On the southwest side, Naples down to Key West, we're talking 8 to 12 feet. Then just a little bit north of that, around the Fort Myers area, 5 to 8 feet. But even places far north as Tampa could be experiencing 3 to 5 feet of storm surge and rainfall. While it will be nowhere near what we had in Harvey, it's still going to be plenty high enough to trigger some flash flooding. Widespread, you're talking 4 to 6 inches of rain, but there will be several pockets that could pick up in excess of 10 inches of rain with this storm. And winds, let's face it, as a Category 5 storm, even a high-end Category 4, you're talking incredibly high sustained winds as well as wind gusts. And because the storm is so huge, you've got hurricane force winds that will extend on both sides of the coast. So Don, it really doesn't matter whether you're on the East Coast side or the West Coast side, you're likely going to get hurricane force winds for several hours as it treks north.
All right, we'll continue to follow Elson Chinchar in the CNN Weather Center. Appreciate that. Joining me now on the phone is Beth Marchinsik. She is a crowd shelter tonight, in a crowded shelter tonight with her young family. Beth, thank you so much. We appreciate you joining us. You're there with your 3-month-old baby, Ivy, and your husband, Ollie, right?
Yes. We've been here since last night.
And the baby's 3-month birthday at the shelter. How are you all doing?
It's been a long, less than 24 hours. We're holding up though.
So tell me your story. Where do you live and what happened?
We live in Miami Beach, and there was a mandatory evacuation, so we headed up to Southwest Ranches and Broward County to stay with his mother. But once the storm intensified and it just started looking a little bit too scary, we decided to head for shelter. So we came here last night around midnight, maybe 12:30, and we've been here ever since.
So you decided to go there instead of with his mother, right? You made that decision late last night?
We all came. His mother, his cousin was waiting for the aunt and uncle to let him in. They stopped the shelter's full now, so they stopped admitting people. But hopefully, since we have family here already, they'll let 2 more in.
Let me ask you this. I wanted to ask you about the shelter and the conditions. So what is this shelter? What facility? Is it a middle school, right?
Right. It's a middle school.
How many people are there?
They said they were going to cap it at around 900. So I believe around that many. It's really crowded. We started in the gymnasium, and then they started, once the gymnasium was packed, they then started opening the cafeteria. They took out all the tables, and now there's mattresses and sleeping bags. You know, the cafeteria is packed. After the cafeteria, then there was the hall, the dance room. Every square inch of this place is covered with blankets, pillows, bottles of water. Children, elderly, they're everywhere.
So did you bring supplies? Or are they giving you supplies, or was it a combination?
They give 3 meals a day, but we didn't know what we were in for, so we were already prepared, and we had supplies. So we brought our own, and most people did the same. But they are providing, 3 meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and some water, a little bit of tea, coffee.
And there are people there from all walks and all ages, from babies to the elderly, correct?
There is, yeah, all sorts, all ages.
I would imagine this is really challenging to go through for anyone, but when you're with an infant, what is that like? Jeez.
Well, it was scary to be in a situation at all, facing a major storm, and then deciding what was right for our family to stay, to go, to get on the highway, is there enough gas, an accident, to stay with with family to come to the shelter. It was an intense, 3 or 4 days. And then when it came down to the wire, we just decided we have to be somewhere safe, and shelter is the safest place.
That was it's very smart of you, because there are people who are actually not heeding the warnings, and considering the size of this hurricane, it is amazing that they're doing so. Listen, you have gone through, you said you live in Miami Beach, correct?
Right.
You have gone through hurricanes before, or a hurricane before. You've dealt with Matthew.
No.
Yeah. Did you deal with Matthew?
I dealt with Matthew, but in Vero Beach. So I just recently moved to Miami Beach, and I'm not a Floridian, so hurricanes are not something that I've really grew up with or accustomed to. They're terrifying. Matthew really was a scare, but Vero Beach, where I was, we lost power for 2 days where I was, my home. I had no storm damage. We were prepared, but it was nothing compared to this.
Do you think people are taking Irma more seriously than they did because it's coming on the heels of Harvey, and then there's Jose right behind it?
Yeah, absolutely. We saw what Harvey did in Texas. I have family in Texas, and it's always better to be safe than sorry. And I'm sure, I would hope that everyone feels that way.
Yeah. And listen, here's the interesting thing. No one knows, because, it's a science, but it's not an exact science. It's going to hit, they believe around Sunday morning, it's going to be the worst, or at its worst. But you don't know the damage it's going to cause. So you have no idea when you're going to get home and what you're going to find when you get there.
Exactly. That's part of the decision, that it's hard to leave. And it's also hard to stay. You just don't know what you're facing. If you leave and you plan to be gone for 2 or 3 weeks, are you going to come home to a condemned building? What's your property going to look like? Are you going to be able to get back in once you leave? Ali is an attorney, and he has clients that he has to deal with. It's hard to make that call. Stay, go. What do we do? We decided to stay, even though we could be without power for a week, 3 weeks, and we go back and forth. We're like, man, we should have left. We should have. This is too big. This is too scary. And other times, we think we're glad we stayed. We need to get back to the beach and see what our home is going to look like.
Well, Beth, we wish you and your husband Ali the best, and of course Ivy, happy 3-month-old birthday. Interesting spending it in the shelter, but we hope that you guys are safe. Thank you so much. We'll check back with you, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. We come right back. There's much more on this monster storm. It's headed
Pinellas,
straight
Polk,
for
Highlands, Manatee,
Florida. We're getting
Sarasota, Hardee, and DeSoto counties. We may see those updated to a hurricane warning as this gets closer. We'll have more on Irma coming up in a few minutes, guys. So the very latest, Wolf, is that we are seeing at least a moderate increase in terms of gusts, going from 185 miles per hour up to 190 miles per hour. Sustained winds are holding steady at 155, but I want you to understand, 2 miles an hour stronger. If this was 157, that would be a Category 5. So even though we are just a Category 4 now, it is at the very top end of that Category 4 strength. You can see the storm continuing its trek in between the Bahamas and Cuba. This plays an important role because over land the storm weakens, but it's over open water. This is where the storms like to be. This is where they can either maintain strength or get even stronger because of that warm water. We've also seen an increase. This swath of hurricane watches and warnings has expanded a little bit because we are getting closer to landfall time, and the closer and closer we get, the more these hurricane watches and warnings are going to spread further north into the state. So keep that in mind. Even if you see your county on the map and it's not under a hurricane watch or a warning as of right now, that could change as we get closer to landfall. Speaking of landfall, we expect that to be around
Shalom, amigos. Tudo bem? Eu puxei aqui, dando um pequeno update, né? Eu nem vou sair da onde eu tô, porque eu não posso ficar gastando muito combustível, entendeu? Mas eu só vou dar uma volta aqui no condomínio e mostrar para vocês, né? A situação aqui, né? Essa moça aqui, ó, no 1995 aqui, ó, nós ajudamos ela aqui, fechamos essa parte aqui dela, mas não tem madeira o suficiente, né? Então algumas janelas vão ficar 100% fechadas, né? Esse negócio de botar madeirite aí na frente das janelas é algo assim meio... uma versão assim meio pobre, né, cara? Porque é feio para bedel e você tem que estar guardando, né, esse material, essa coisa toda, né? Então é meio complicado aqui. Então, olha só, parece que tem um militar aqui, o nome dele é Davi, ele é do BOP, tá? Ele serviu no BOP aí, e ele, olha aqui o equipamento dele aí, ó. Então, vamos dar uma luzinha aqui, vamos ver se ele tá na área. Vamos dar uma luz nele. O nome dele é Davi Souza, ele foi do BOP há muitos anos aí, parece que está aposentado agora, né? Então, vamos dar uma olhada aqui, vamos ver se a gente vê o militar aí, né? Não, ele tem casa, o carro dele tá aí, né? Ah, fugir, ó, olha o dia que tá. Olha o dia como tá lindo. Tá vendo? Ali aquela casa tá toda revestida já, né? Olha aqui, ó. Olha isso aqui. Fizeram um bom trabalho, hein? Revestiram a casa inteira. Aqui também a caminhonetezinha aqui, ó. Aí, ó. O pessoal não gosta porque eu sou a favor do Trump. Tá vendo aqui, ó? E eles rasgam. E eles tiram o adesivo, entendeu? Porque eu sou pro-Trump, né? Eu sou pró-América, eu sou pró-Estados Unidos, né? E o resto não me interessa muito, não, para falar a verdade, né? Porque a opinião do Trump é pró-Israel, né? Então, se é pró-Israel, então olha aqui. Revestiu tudo aqui, ó. Mas quem mora aqui, quem tem propriedade aqui, tem que já ter esse equipamento aí, já uma proteção mais prática, né? Vamos ver se tem alguém aqui. Tem um cachorro aí, ó. Eu já ouvi falar de casos de pessoas que comeram os cachorros por falta de comida, porque não estocaram comida. E devoraram os cachorros. Sim. Opa, tudo bem? Olha, você tá. Não fala nada, não fala palavrão. Você tá ao vivo no Facebook. Se você quiser, a gente não mostra. O patrão tá aí?
Tá, o que é?
Não, só tô gravando, fazendo um documentário. E se você não quiser aparecer, eu não mostro.
Tudo bem.
Porque eu.
Davi tá botando.
Ele tá lá em cima? A gente pode entrar? Pode filmar?
Pode.
Olha, a gente tá. Ó, tá bom.
Tá lá, pode ir lá,
Vamos
ele tá colocando lá.
Vamos ver lá em cima, ele tá lá em cima, embaixo, ó. Esse aqui é o cachorrinho deles. Me parece que já compraram até um. Oi, tudo bem? Ó, vocês estão no Facebook, tá? Se vocês não quiserem aparecer, sempre me falam. Tá ao vivo, tá? Eu vi ver os caras trabalhando. Eles estão aqui?
Não, estão aqui fora.
Aqui, ó.
Segue por lá quando já passou aqui, né?
Tá meio assustador
Não
aqui.
é?
Não é festa de Halloween, né? Ah, deixa eu mostrar aqui os preparativos aqui. Peraí, olha só. Ó, as senhoras aqui estão preparando uma comida, um lanchinho, água, né? Ó, o principal é isso aqui, né? Os vinhos, né? Mas isso aqui é sempre assim, né? Não tem nada a ver com negócio de furacão, desculpa.
E as malas, porque a gente está saindo fora. Né?
Ah, vocês vão fugir?
Vamos para Geórgia. Minha filha mora
de
lá.
carro?
Vamos.
Não!
Não, a 95 tá boa, não tem nada. Tá tranquilo.
É? Será? Então tá bom. Ó, se alguém é procurado aí pela polícia, alguma coisa assim, esconde a cara, que nós estamos gravando. Estamos gravando ao vivo. Olha aqui, ó. Ó, o Davi. Olha aí, ó. O Davi está fazendo a preparação da casa dele, está botando a proteção ali, né? E ele trouxe alguns amigos dele ali. Parece que vai rolar um churrasquinho mais tarde. Uma cervejinha, não? A galera aqui joga pesado, entendeu? Então aqui, ó, onde a gente mora aqui, ó. Nós temos um piscinão para receber esse excesso de água. A altura do nível da água para cá dá mais ou menos, sei lá, talvez uns 15 pés. Então é muita água. Ah, olha aqui, ó. Olha como é que a vizinha fez aqui, ó. Olha aqui, ó. Fizeram como se fosse uma barricada aí, né? Mas não tem como essa água toda subir nesse nível e chegar aqui, não. Porque nós temos um buraco para receber água que está do nosso lado, né? Olha lá, o pessoal está levando a sério. Olha lá os patos aqui, ó. Olha aqui, ó. Olha aqui, ó. Aonde você não passa esse buracão? Mas eu estou sugerindo você ficar esperto, viu? Entendeu? Então tá aqui, ó, o pessoal se preparando. Está o Davi. Davi Ô, Davi, você é da PM ainda ou não? Ah, ele é reformado da PM, do BOP, tá vendo ali, ó? É guerreiro nosso aí, ó. Ele conseguiu escapar aí a democracia chamada Brasil, né? Olha, gente, cuida, senão o Brasil vai virar uma Venezuela, tá? Um pequeno recado para vocês. Esse aqui é o supervisor. Tá vendo? Ele fica embaixo e ele vai coordenando os caras, mais para a esquerda, mais para direita, entendeu? Ô, Davi, essa plataforma então Uau! Eu achava que não aguentaria alguém subir aí. Ah, entendi. É complicado, viu, nego, fazer isso aí, viu? Por isso que eu contratei lá a companhia. Falei, eu não... Ficou, acho que 12 ou 13 mil. Casa toda, cara. E é tudo coisa violenta, velho. Ô, quando veio aquele outro furacão, eu falei, como é que eu, um senhor de idade, vou subir em cima? Você tá louco, meu. Chama o Home Depot e manda instalar esse negócio. Depois a gente vê como é que paga isso aí. Aqui a gente gosta de entrar em dívida, entendeu? Aqui a gente é igual brasileiro. A gente gosta de coisa boa, não importa que vai se afundar a dívida, entendeu? Mas a gente faz. Mas olha aqui, ó. Aqui é onde a gente mora, aqui, um lugarzinho aqui, ó. Isso aqui seria um nível de Alphaville em São Paulo, né? Só que não temos segurança armada nem nada. Que quem faz a nossa segurança aqui é nós mesmos, entendeu? Tem um senhor ali, né? Eu já sei que ele gosta de arma e tem arma. O meu vizinho também gosta de arma e tem arma. Então, essa é a preparação. Qual o seu nome, senhor? Qual o seu nome? César, você quer dar um alô pro povo do Brasil, do Facebook? Ele é o supervisor. Não? Olha lá. Ele que coordena toda. Daqui, ele consegue fazer 2 peões subir lá em cima e falar, vai assim, faz essa, não é? É brincadeira, gente. Aqui é algo super chato de fazer. O bom dessa estrutura aqui, porque aqui é 1, 2 casas geminadas e tem as casas pequenas, né, do lado, né? Então é um bloco, né, e ele é todo de concreto até a metade, a outra metade é de madeira. Mas essa estrutura aqui não é uma estrutura, vamos dizer assim, extremamente forte, mas, por exemplo, se vocês olharem, tá vendo o puxadinho do telhado ali? Pelo fato daquilo ser curtinho, impede que seja, ou seja, que o ar possa estar forçando ali e queira levantar o teto, entendeu? Coisa que nas casas mais antigas não era assim. Olha, por exemplo, tá vendo esse telhado ali? Olha quando ali é mais reduzido ainda, entendeu? Então a chance de levantar um telhado desse é muito difícil, porque é um telhadão grandão só. Ou seja, o nosso telhado, com essas casas do lado, é o mesmo telhado. E isso aí é forte, é construído assim, não vou dizer nem para ser a prova de furacão ou algo assim, mas ele tem uma estrutura muito forte, que é difícil de arrancar um telhado desse. Mas categoria 4, categoria 5, nós ainda não sabemos o dano que pode fazer seguindo esses novos códigos, né, de construção de Miami-Dade, que é, vamos dizer assim, o top de linha, né, a nível de construção, a nível de preparação de construir uma casa nova para resistir um impacto desse, mudou muito depois do furacão Andrew, entendeu? Então esse vai ser um teste desses últimos 25 anos, né? Se realmente essas mudanças que foram feitas, se realmente foram, assim, se foram boas medidas, né? Então, o código de construção do Sul da América vai ser testado, né? Gente, eu vou dar uma volta por aí, ó. Boa sorte para vocês aí. E, olha, compra uma picanha, compra... Caso, né? A gente não sabe, né? Valeu. Bom, tem mais um outro pessoal preparando aqui também, ó. Esse aqui não fez nada, ó. Tá vendo? Hey, buddy. Não fez nada, tá vendo? Olha essa casa. Nada. E essas janelas são extremamente fracas. Mas, querendo ou não, essas janelas resistiram ou seja, essa estrutura aqui, ela resistiu ao furacão Andrew, entendeu? E outros furacões também. Ó. Isso. Ó, você tá vendo como é que o fato desse telhado, praticamente, apesar de ser um só, né, eles são vários telhados com desenhos. Então pode ser que o vento possa pegar uma esquina ali e levantar uma esquina, mas ele não consegue levantar tudo. Estamos falando categoria 3, tá? Porque já fomos testados com categoria 3. Agora categoria 4 e 5, é extremamente perigoso, mas não tem como você simplesmente sair daqui. Porque o que pode acontecer, vamos supor, você sai da sua propriedade. O que pode acontecer? Porque aqui não tem como encher isso aqui de água, tá? Tudo isso que eu estou falando é opinião minha, tá? Porque no IRMA, essas árvores aqui, muitas delas foram derrubadas e foram recolocadas, né? Não sei se vai dar para ver aqui, ó. Mas aqui tem uma linha de trem aqui do lado. Não sei se os irmãos estão conseguindo ver aqui, ó. Então existe uma barreira, existe essa, como se fosse essa muralha na frente dessa, vamos dizer, dessa rua aqui, que isso faz com que o vento, dependendo da direção que o vento vier, ele venha levantar e passar como se fosse por cima de nós, entendeu? Aliviando um pouco. Essa é a nossa esperança, né? Mas aqui, de encher de água aqui, da enchente aqui, não tem como, porque aqui é alto. Esse ponto aqui é alto. Temos uma depressão aqui do nosso lado direito. Estou parecendo aqueles repórteres do SPTV, né? O SPTV, de repente, você me contratar para fazer algum trabalho para vocês aqui no exterior, né? Então, essa a nossa esperança. Estamos gravando isso aí para ficar como um recorde, né? Aí vamos ver o que vai acontecer depois, né? Mas quem se decide a morar aqui, eu moro aqui, pode vir 10 furacão, eu não vou para outro lugar, não é um furacão que vai botar a gente para correr, mas quem mora aqui já tem que ter uma preparação, já tem que estar em vista isso aí não é algo que pode te pegar de surpresa, entendeu? Que nem tinha uma moça lá, nossa vizinha, magrinha, não pesa nem 100 libras, tadinha. Como é que ela ia fazer o que nós acabamos ajudando ela a fazer, né? Esse sistema aqui é bom também, que tem uns metais aqui, ó, tá vendo? É uma chapa de metal São vários módulos, você vai tirando um, encaixando e parafusando ali. Esse é super seguro. Bom, parar. O problema é que cria escuridão na casa, né? Então, às vezes você tem que ficar aí 4, 5 dias, como nós já ficamos, sem poder sair de casa, porque não tem o que fazer, não tem onde ir, não dá para trabalhar. E a casa toda escura, então é super ruim, né? Então, essa casa está bem protegida, guardada, só falta botar um painel na frente da casa. Essa casa aqui também não fizeram nada, né? Vamos dar uma olhada aqui. Que é um casal desse, é uma propriedade valiosa. O dano, quando entra água nas casas da Flórida, não é igual do Brasil. Você lava e acabou. Acaba ficando uma... Ah, eles estão ficando aqui agora, né? Não. Tá vendo aqui, ó? Essa casa aqui não fez nada também, tá vendo? Estou completamente desprotegida. Eles não tiraram nem esses móveis aqui, porque por lei, o certo é eles tirar tudo isso que está aqui, porque se o vento pega esses objetos, começa a lançar esses objetos contra outras propriedades, né? Sendo assim, causando dano, né? Então, super negligente, né? Paquinho. Parece que é uma cruz ali, né? O que é aquilo? Parece que ela botou uma cruz ali, uma proteção. Crucifixo. Tá tudo bem, tá? Tá bem. Vai ser interessante o que vai acontecer com nós aqui, né? Parece que o furacão está movimentando um pouco o oeste, mas chance são que ele, vamos pegar garantido uma categoria 4 e na hora que ele começar a bater lá em Miami-Dade, quando chegar onde nós estamos, talvez ele tenha já caído com 3. E se ele cair com 3, né? Para nós é mais interessante. Quanto menor o número, nesse exato momento ele está passando por Cuba, né? Cuba tem montanhas altíssimas. E talvez venha o Senhor das Barrancas, estão falando? Vamos dar uma voltinha aqui no condomínio. Eu já tô 2 dias preso, já que eu não saio para lugar nenhum, né, praticamente, né? E foi tá bom que eu trabalhei um pouquinho, queimei umas calorias. Uau! Muita gente não fez nada mesmo. E às vezes o que faz... É tão engraçado isso, porque às vezes o que faz se protege, alguma coisa quebra. E o que não fez nada, às vezes não acontece nada, né? Aí todo mundo aí se preparando, né? Eu não sei se isso aqui já é do furacão. Hey, buddy. Be safe, bro. Não pode deixar nada, tá vendo? Aquele vaso, aquelas cadeiras, aquelas coisas, entendeu? Tudo tem que... eles prenderam os gates, tá vendo? Prenderam os gates abertos. Não, o dia tá lindo. Não, o dia tá fantástico. Ó, esse aqui guardou o carro dentro da garagem. Isso aí também parece que deixou por último momento. Não achou o material adequado. Aí. Não, é que sabe o que acontece? O problema é que eles entendem que o Estado está sendo exagerado, entendeu? Muitos deles. Mas o fato de eu ter servido na Polícia do Exército, então você consegue entender a linguagem do Estado, entendeu? E o Estado não tem interesse que você se machuque, se afogue, morra, não tem interesse, tem que mandar um resgate. Então, por exemplo, o Estado fala, olha, evacuem as áreas de Miami, né? Certas áreas de Miami que estão assim super vamos dizer, tensas, o nível da água subir muito. Então, está vendo, você não é obrigado a evacuar. Mas o problema é se acontece alguma coisa com você tem 90 anos de idade, um exemplo, né? Aí tem que mandar uma unidade de resgate lá te resgatar num lugar que falou que era para evacuar. E às vezes, durante o hurricane, não tem, eles não saem. Se o vento estiver acima de 35 milhas por hora, eles são proibidos de sair, porque eles estão expondo a vida deles. É diferente no meio de uma tempestade, de uma chuva, resgatar alguém, mas por isso que estão falando. Heed the warnings. Prestem atenção aos avisos. Se eles falam que para aquela área que você mora evacuar, melhor evacuar. Porque se você precisar de ajuda, não tem o resgate. Por isso que você tem que ser autossuficiente. Você tem que ter um carro bom, um carro alto. Tem que ter um dinheirinho, tem que ter um equipamento, tem que ter uma ferramenta, alguma coisa. Eu comprei uma máquina de cortar madeira, a pilha. Sabe aquelas motosserra? $300. Ok, deixa lá, tá novinha. Se eu não usar ela, daqui 2, 3 meses eu devolvo para a loja. E eu posso vir a ganhar um dinheiro. Sem de boa, usando essa ferramenta, entendeu? Aí a preparação do cara. Então tá lá, a máquina tá prontinha para ser usada. Se houver, vamos supor, eu quero ganhar um dinheiro cortando árvore que caiu em cima do carro de alguém. Ou então até mesmo no meu carro, vai saber? Já tô com a minha ferramenta, não preciso ir na loja buscar. E assim vai indo. Mas é trabalho para homem, né, cara? Vai lá se sujar, sair na chuva. É trabalho para cabra macho. Não é qualquer um que vai querer fazer isso, né? Mas eu sou macho, eu falei, né? Então, eu fico impressionado de ver que tem pessoas que realmente deixam para a última hora, entendeu? E isso não é bom, né? Mas é uma situação bem chatinha, porque você fica sem energia, é um calor arretado, e você está acostumado com ar-condicionado, aquela inconveniência. Pô, realmente. Então, aí, voltando o lance do Estado. Não, na última hora desvia. Ok. Porque, por exemplo, você... eu não vejo problema nenhum. Você, se você mora aqui, isso já tem que ser... Você já tem que ter um kit furacão pronto já. Não tem que todo ano passar pelo mesmo drama, pela mesma história, não. Você já tem que ter seu kit furacão pronto e você simplesmente, sei lá, compra uma bateria nova, a lanterna já tem que estar, sei lá. Porque é uma coisa super desconfortável, principalmente se você tem criança, ficar aí... Você ficar aí 5 dias sem luz, ficar aí 5 dias sem comer uma comida direito, porque aqui o fogão aqui não é a gás, os fogões aqui são elétricos. Então você tem que improvisar um fogãozinho a gás de camping que nós já temos, entendeu? Então nós temos uma churrasqueira. Vai lá no mercado, de repente compra uma bola de carne lá, compra um frango, uma coisa, e improvisa um churrasquinho. É que americano não gosta de ser incomodado com nada, né? Americano é super, assim, meio mimimi, entendeu? Então tá aí, ó. As ruas estão bem, vamos dizer, silenciosas, né? Todo mundo realmente tentando se preparar ao máximo mesmo. E estejam orando por nós, né? Ó, olha aqui, ó. Olha que legal isso aqui, ó. Essa... Eu não sei quem é, não, mas aqui nós temos 2 policiais que moram no condomínio, entendeu? Então, olha só, a viatura de polícia. Aqui eles trazem a viatura para casa, entendeu? Então, é um policial por viatura e ele leva para casa. Por quê? Ele começa a trabalhar... Aliás, ele não para de trabalhar. Ele está o tempo todo trabalhando. Né? Não tem policial de folga. Entendeu? Não tem policial de folga. Porque se acontecer uma emergência, ele já sai de casa e já está com a viatura, ele já está pronto para servir. Ele não precisa ir lá dirigir, pegar o carro dele e dirigir até não sei aonde para fazer não sei o que, entendeu? Então eu acho super legal, porque um carro desse é super barato. Um carro desse é super barato um carro desse é super barato, que o Estado dá para o Estado não, né? Que na verdade, não vou falar sobre ele, mas que a polícia aqui, na verdade, ela é uma companhia, né? Ela é terceirizada pelo Estado, entendeu? Não é formado por forças militares como é no Brasil, né? Que a PM, no caso, é uma subdivisão do Exército, né? Ela está sujeita ao Exército. Aqui, não. Então, o cara sai de casa e já está trabalhando. Já está com a sua arma, né? Dependendo da qualificação dele, ele tem um R15 lá dentro. Se ele já tiver... A mãe dela está aqui na Flórida? A neta? Uhum. Vai orando, né? A Sheila tá lendo aqui para mim, falando que você tem uma neta sua que tá aqui na Flórida, né? Tem... Não é brinquedo. Vamos estar orando, devemos estar preocupados, né? Mas tudo está indicando que nós vamos receber aí um grande presente do Eterno aí e seremos poupados, né? Parece que já morreram, acho que umas 20 pessoas, né? Então é isso aí, meus queridos. Que o Eterno abençoe todos vocês. Então, essa aqui é a nossa vizinhança aqui. Shalom a todos. Mais tarde vamos ter um hangout aí, porque como está tudo normal, vamos abrir um hangout do estudo. Eu não sei, Glória, porque na verdade eu fiquei o dia inteiro fazendo umas coisas aqui, ajudando uns vizinhos aqui, eu nem vi notícia, tá? Eu vou ver daqui a pouco quando chegar em casa. Então tá bom, meus queridos. Ó, lindo. Orem por nós, orem por todos nós. E nós precisamos de um milagre. Então é isso aí, querido. Shalom. Beijos. Fui. Muito bem, galera. Tá aí. Todo o drama que é esse negócio de furacão, né? Que de repente você até faz um hangout só sobre furacão. Eu vou nessa, eu vou descansar. Que o Eterno abençoe todos vocês. E nos falamos na sequência. Shalom Aleichem.